So my headlights buckets showed up, and these are set up to run double bulbs in them. And I bought these off Amazon. These are supposed to go so like this one would plug into the connector, the main headlight one, the single one in the truck, and then split off to go to these, but that's not going to work because you can't plug a bulb in this, and so I got to send them back. So I've been trying to figure out my lights, and I have come to this conclusion. I wish I'd have done my research better. So Dodge uses the ground to turn the lights on. So anyway, this truck uses 9004 bulbs, one on each side. A 9004 has the ground here, low beam here, high beam here. Quad lamp setup uses a 9004 and a 9007. The 9007 stays on during bright and dim operation. It has two filaments in it. When you go to bright, it brightens the 9007 and turns on one filament in the 9004. It turns on the high filament, so you get really bright lights. So the 9004 has the ground here on this side, and the 7, it's in the middle. So if you wire this up and you remove the ground off the 9004, and on a quad lamp on my other little Dodge, you only have 2 wires in. What happens when you go to dim? It should turn the 9004 completely off, and it doesn't. It just glows like a worm in a bottle. So if you use this Chinese setup, what it does is it puts a huge load on your light switch in the truck, and then you'll burn that up. Now my little sport Dodge out here uses a relay in the fuse box to operate this. They do make some aftermarket stuff. Gino's Garage makes a deal called a Bright Box with some relays. But if I'm going to do this, I think the best route to go is to just run the separate harness for the 9004s, go up into the relay, the fuse box here, and I believe it's right here. You install a relay. I'd have to take this off and shove the wires up with the spades on it to engage the relay. That way it works. Made in China junk. That's where it belongs, in the trash can. Anything that says made in China, in the garbage. Okay, change of plan. So I have put the 9004 in there and the 9007. In order to make this work, you change these 2 wires around, because the ground on a 9004 is over here, and on the 07 it's in the middle. So you just change these 2. Oh, you know all those ad things they have on Facebook and Instagram? So I've got 2 of these. I got another set laying over there on the bench. These are the little special tools you need to take apart electrical connectors. The round ones would be for like a douche connector, a round one, poke them in there. Anyway, to take out these headlight ones, all I needed was a small flat one. And you just take it, and right in there on the top, you push it in, and it releases the little spring-loaded deal that connects it, and you can pull the wire right out. Piece of cake. Okay, I've got my other wire fished in here. I'll have to run it through with the original loom. I really would have liked to put it in the original loom, but it's just too much work to get it all apart and get it stuffed in there. So I'm ready to plug in my headlight bucket. A word of advice to you is go get black silicone, not gasket silicone, just black silicone, and put a light bead where the clear glass meets the black plastic to seal it. And you'll have to undo the screw right there and then pull your blinker housing off and do it also. And what that's going to do is seal the housing up so you don't get water in here, because these are not OEM housings. These are cheap China-made junk. So that'll keep you from having moisture. Now, so this bulb right here is the 9004, and that's the 7. Your 7 is going to be your outboard, and your 4 is going to be your inboard. Now, you cannot, even though these look identical, these little slots here that go inside the housing, and there's 3 little nubs in there, and they have to pass through that. So a 9007 has that oriented different. And so you try to put a 4 where the 7 goes, it's going to be cocked funny. It's not going to work. You may not even get it in there. You may break the nubs off to get it in there. So the housing is specific so that you don't get them in the wrong place. So your 9004 is always going to go inboard, and your 7 is going to go outboard. And then I have removed my top pad because the plastic deals were broke on some places. I've got a brand new one that I've had for quite a while, so this is the best time to do it. It's probably, I'm not sure, but it's going to be pretty tough to get those headlight buckets out with this top pad on. So I'm going to go ahead and put this housing in and plug it in, then stretch my wires over, and then figure out how I'm going to connect those over there. I'll show you that and how to run it up in the box. Your bottom retaining screw for this is kind of a bear. You can get your hand down in here and get it started, but you're going to need a 1/4 inch ratchet. You're going to need a U-joint and a 10 millimeter socket to reach that one. The top one's a piece of cake, and this one's a piece of cake, but this is all with the top bumper pad removed, and that makes it a whole lot easier. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention. If you're trying to do this on a truck, an early style Dodge, it's not going to have this big cutout. It's only going to have one hole here. So you're going to have to take something and cut this out to fit the quad lamps in there. Okay, that's what they're going to look like with one bulb in there. They're nice bright lights, but without that second one burning, you just don't get that super bright light. So let's get it wired in. So I got my box all off and opened up. So they use these yellow clips, and your spades, the round ends of them, this pushes it up in there, and then there's these here that snap on and hold it up in there. But the spade terminals are inside this plastic so hard I can't get them out. So I have decided this isn't worth it. I mean, I found a place on the internet that can sell you any kind of connector you want, but I'd have to get them out and take a picture of it, send to them to get the right one. So I'm just going to mount a relay somewhere up there or on the side of the box, something. Anyway, this is the bright headlight wire here that I got to tie into to make the relay work. So I can either do it from there, or that wire does not go into the power distribution box, goes all the way inside. So I don't really think I want to open up any of the harness there to find it, so I'll probably just do it here. Now, I took the battery out. This is a diesel, and the acid and stuff has eaten the protection off of this, so it's a good thing I took it apart. So I can tape all this up and then put some new loom on there to cover it up. Okay, so I gave up on trying to get some connectors and hook into that. To really do it correctly, you'd have to unhook a bunch of wires. You just can't get it tipped up because of this power steering hose to get under there and work on it. So I've opted to go the other direction. That's my high beam wire there. So for connecting wires together, this would be like the ideal setup right here. So you don't have to cut them. You just, when you splice one wire into another one, you can just skive it off and do that. And so since I didn't have any of those, what I did is I cut the loop off of a connector, cut the plastic off, and took this piece out here and then split it open and used that for a connector, and it worked really well. That, because like you wouldn't use one this big for that 20 gauge wire that you have to connect into, but I had to connect into a couple of 14 gauge, and this worked good. And then for the 20 gauge, I just got a smaller terminal connector and used the center out of it. And that's where you hook into it. And so that will be the signal wire, so that when you go to high beam, this wire will run up through this loom and up through here, and then I will put the relay right here, right there, and then all I've got to do is run a ground out of it. And let's see what else I got to do. Oh, one of the wires in here, it'll be the black one, goes here, and there's my ground. And then let's see, here's my orange one, and then this one, let's see, oh, this one is the other wire in here, the ground circuit, and that'll get fused and it should work. Okay, so I've got everything tucked in here, copacetic. Using big words, that makes me sound smarter. So I've run this up in here, so I'll get my battery case and my cruise control and everything back down in there and plugged in, and then we'll start installing the relay and get that all wired up, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, in order to get that battery tray out, there's 2 bolts nuts under here. You can just barely see the one right. Let me get this on there. Right there. That's so bright I can't see it through the camera. There's right there, there's 2 of them. And the only way you're going to get to those is you've got to have this front bumper pad off. And then you've got 2 here and 2 against the fender side. Just, they corrode pretty bad because battery acid gets on them. I don't know how your Dodge diesel does, but mine just likes to boil my batteries to death, and they're just always a mess. And I'm always spraying battery saver on them, steaming it off, putting battery saver. Eats up my battery hold down bolts. Matter of fact, I twisted one off because there was nothing left of it up by the head, so I got to get a couple new of those. And if you get them through Dodge, they nail you. They're like 20 bucks a piece if you can still get them. So I don't know what I'm going to do there. I got to figure something out. If I was going to change over to a coarse thread or something else, I should have done that while the box was out and took the nuts off and replaced them, but it didn't, so I'll have to figure that part out. Anyway, you got a sensor here. I don't know what this is. Is this the outside air temperature sensor? Anyway, that has to unplug. That's right there. And then your cruise control plug-in's kind of a bear. It's got one of those red clips on it like you'd see on your fuel injector nozzles. That's kind of a bear to get off. And then when you take it out also, here's the vacuum line. Make sure you pry it off of here, otherwise it breaks this. I broke mine, and thank goodness I had enough to stick back in there. But anyway, and then the other thing is make sure you put some protection on your wires and stuff, because there's a lot of sharp edges here. And so I've run my new harness up along the main one there, and it's laying here. So once I get the battery and everything in, I can finish the wiring and hope this all works. Okay, I want to run through this real quick with you to explain how I did this and how this works. So I've got my right front headlight hooked up and it works. So what I did is I ran 2 wires, a white and a black, and I put it inside some of this plastic loom. So this is a 3/8. I use 1/4 inch to go underneath the radiator, and I zip tied that to the OEM harness, and I came around to this side, and it runs. I had the battery and the battery box out. So what you got to do is you got to hook into those 2 wires and come up here for this socket. And then what you got to do is, this is a red with an orange tracer wire. This is your high beam for your 9007 bulb. Now, just as a reminder, I had to change these 2 purple wires because this is set up originally for the 9004 bulbs. 9004 bulbs have the ground on the right side, 9007 in the center, so you have to change these 2 wires. Then what you have to do is you have to come off of this red with the orange tracer wire, and you have to hook into that with a wire, and then that's going to go with your red and black on up through the loom that you've made, and that's going to come up to the power distribution box. And I have relays on here for my fog lights and driving lights. This is a custom bumper I got from LMC Trucks, and so those are the relays for it. When I bought the new lights, they came with wiring harnesses, and they came with these fuse holders. And since my system is already wired up, I didn't need them. And so what I did is they also came with a couple of relays, so I used one of the relays. So right here in the power distribution box is where you're going to hook your wire to your fuse. And this big red wire comes up to your battery, and that's the main power supply for this. So you're going to hook it into there, and you're going to put a 15 amp fuse in that. And then that hot wire is going to come up, and what you're going to do is you're going to take that hot wire and you're going to hook it to the ground. Now that sounds crazy, but that's how Dodge has engineered this. So don't be afraid, because that white wire just goes down to your headlight. It's not going to short out, cause a problem. Hook the hot wire to the ground wire. Now, on the wiring diagram, they have different colors. So here's your hot wire right here. This pink red one is the hot wire, and it comes down and it hooks into the ground for the 9004 plugins. And it shows it there. I've done it up here. So once you get that hooked in, those wires, the pink red, which is your hot wire and your ground to your headlight, are going to hook into terminal 85 on your relay. And then your wire that actually comes from the lights, it should be the hot wire, which in my case is the black wire, is going to hook to terminal 87. And then the wire that powers the relay, which again is the high beam wire on your 9007 plug-in, that's this one right here. That one is going to come over, that's the red-orange, that one's going to hook to terminal 86. So what that does is when you turn on the high beams, that is going to energize the relay and turn on your 9004 bulbs. Now you got one terminal left on there, it's a ground. That would be the black wire on the drawing here, and that's going to come over and it hooks to ground. And there's inside the power distribution blocks is this junction, and that's where it hooks. But you can tell from here it's a ground. So I've already tried it without this ground wire hooked up, and the system works. That headlight goes dim and bright, everything works. It seems counterintuitive that you hook the hot wire to the ground wire on the light, but that's how it works. And this is why you cannot buy pigtails and use your one OEM connector to power the two lights. Number one, because a 9004 has the ground terminal on the right side and a 9000 has it in the middle. So you ask yourself, well, why can't I go with two 9007 bulbs or two 9004 bulbs? Well, I'll show you why. So this is your headlight housing. This is the 9007 bulb. This is the 9004 bulb. So 9007s and 9004s look identical on the outside. The difference is the terminals in there. Like I said, the 9004 has the ground on the side, and the 7 has it in the center pin. But the other problem is, see those square cutouts? There's 3 of them on there. And then there's 3 corresponding square tabs inside the housing. And the 9004 bulb has the square cutouts at a different place than the 9007. So if you try to stick a 9004 in the 9007 socket, it's not going to work. If you can even jam it in there and broke off those square tabs that are inside, your bulb's probably going to sit like this. It's going to sit sideways, and that's probably not going to throw a good light. And so the housings are set up for a 9004 here and a 9007 here. And so the other problem you're going to run to, even if you broke the tabs off and you got 2 9004 bulbs in there, is that you're not going to be able to ever turn off the inside bulb. There's just no way to do that. And so you're going to put a horrendous load on your switch and the wires. Now the OEM wires are a lousy 20 gauge wire. They're not very big, so I don't recommend that. So the only other way that you can do this is, I believe they make a thing called a bright box. I think Gino's Garage sells that. But I'm not sure how that system works. I don't know what a bright box is. I think they call it a bright box because they're pulling voltage straight off the alternator or something. Anyways, somebody comment. I could be all wet here. If I am, please correct me. But they talked like if you pull it straight off the alternator and you're getting the high voltage that comes off of that rather than just battery voltage, that, yeah, your lights will be a whole lot brighter, but they won't last as long. So I'm not sure on that. Now, there's probably some electrical engineer out there that can explain why Dodge did this and how this works. I can't explain it to you. It's like, how does a Positrack in a 67 Pontiac work? I don't know. It just does. But anyway, I've got it hooked up and it's operational. This is the most simplest way I could come up with to make this work and be as OEM factory correct as I possibly could. The only difference between the factory and mine is I don't have the relay inside the power distribution box. It's on the outside. But in theory, it's wired up identically the same, operates the same. So I've got the relay attached to the firewall, and then there's the ground onto it. And at this point, I'm not quite ready to put the light in. I've got to change my transmission cooler hoses, and this is the most opportune time to do that while the top covers off the bumper and the headlights out, because the hose clamps and hoses are inside there, and it's just going to make it way easier for me to get in there and hook that up and get them tightened up. So that's bright. That's working. There we go. Now I got something to fight back with you guys with your F-250 Fords. Okay, the lights are in. So these have the Sylvania super bright white bulbs in it. That's dim. That's bright. And then if I turn on my driving and fog lights, they don't really go out there that far. I'll show you when I turn the lights off here. They need a little adjustment. They need to reach farther out, but I'm really happy with the light. I mean, it's so much brighter and wider than the old single bulbs. So it was worth the time and effort. If you got a little patience and some skill, you can do this too. So one of my subscribers sent me some really cool stuff. This is from Paul. Hope I pronounced this correct. Paul Patanud. So I have in my house, I have floor heat and a boiler, and it's a mess. When it was installed, the person doing it hadn't a clue what he was doing, and it's just a mess. I've probably shown it to you before. Anyway, sent me a nice little letter. Paul travels around consulting with this stuff. Paul, you must really know your stuff. But this is going to come in real handy for me, because in order to fix my heating system, I think I'm going to have to do it myself. And this is some cool information. Like, I wish I had this information when I did my house, because half of my house is on a slab poured on walls, frost walls, and it's got polybutyl tube in it. Worst mistake you could have ever made. Anyway, system doesn't work very well. I wish I'd have seen all this. I think I'd have done it myself instead of hiring somebody. I paid somebody 30 grand clear back in 95, and I got a screwing job. Anyway, inside this tube are schematics, boiler layout, valving, all that. That is cool, Paul. I absolutely love that. You went to a lot of work here to put this together for me, and I really, really appreciate it. Matter of fact, I wish you were here. I would show you my heating system in my house and get some advice on how to fix it. It's got old, obsolete Wiersbo stuff in it. You can't get any more. Just a mess, absolute mess. I just keep cobbling it together to make it work. A lot of the zone valves and stuff I have to run manually. Anyway, Paul, I really appreciate this. I mean, this is the cool thing about my YouTube. Sometimes when I think about giving it up, guys send me stuff like this, and I get thinking about all the cool people I've met through YouTube, all my friends, people that have knowledge that I don't have. Just reminds me of what Bruce Mallison told me. He says, Jeff, we get more done when we work together. And I wish we could work together more as a country instead of being so divided. I think we'd be light years ahead with technology, with everything, if we just work together. Anyway, Paul, I really appreciate this. Thank you. Ooh, Burr, she's a cold Wednesday morning. Got some stuff going in the box here. Put the deal on it. See if the mailman actually comes and gets it all. I got a load for him. Let's go have a look. Okay, got a lot of big boxes. Got a hat going to Calhoun in Bath, New York. Ian Hallonen in Meadow, South Dakota. Hey, Ian, I'm sending this today. So today's Wednesday the 11th. Let me know when it makes it there, because I don't believe USPS one bit. Anyway, got one going to Monica Kern in Holton, Kansas. Cody Thomford in Oldgive, Minnesota. Eric Klein in Hillsgrove, PA. Oh, and one to Ed Vander Egg. And, okay, I can't see his whole address because this is what they do to him now. Anyway, he's in the Netherlands. There's a bunch of extra in there for you, Ed. Zach Carmen, Kings Mountain, Kentucky. Got a shirt going to Terry DeHaria. I can never pronounce that. Henry Messer, Braden, West Virginia. Don Evans, Hiawatha, Iowa. Christopher Harney, Salinas, California. Devin Erbach, Williston, North Dakota. Doug Bush down there in Henderson, Nevada. John Stickety, Arkville, New York. Richard Walters, North Carolina, Ohio, or North Canton, Ohio. John Schneider in Athens, Alabama. And Kevin Skinner in Canastota, New York. Kevin's got some cool stuff, man. I just told him I'd send him a calendar. He built some cool models. So I got one more to add to the pile. Matthew Berry, Sycamore, Illinois. Thank you, Matthew. Sorry I didn't have the black filthy whore shirt. I had to give you the green. Anyway, Mr. Griffey's following me around like a broken dog. Can't let me get out of the house. So anyway, I need to go out in the shop and work on the Super Dodge today. You guys have an awesome day. Wow, I just got an envelope from the women of Waynesville. Hope Mrs. Jpaydirt don't see this. You suppose this is naked ladies or something, hon?
I don't know. It looks like it could be a calendar or something.
Do I dare open it up in front of you?
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy, so we got the women of Waynesville. Don't know who sent that. That's funny. Wow. Biker chicks. Holy moly. Oh, that's sweet.
North Carolina.
Women of Waynesville, North Carolina.
Easy now.